All right, well, hey everyone, and welcome back to the show. And if you are new, thank you so much for being here. This podcast of mine has been going now for 4.5 years, and it is truly just one of those moments that I enjoy doing each week where I sit down and I tell you a little bit about what's going on in my life in hopes that it helps you with maybe something you're going through. Last week, we talked about dressing for success, and really what it came down to was, if you are ever in a situation where you are just down and out, things aren't going your way, and we've all been in that situation, whether it's medical or emotional or relational, and things are really muddled and you kind of almost shut down and kind of keep to yourself, and you just kind of go through a phase of not really caring about your appearance or getting out of the house or anything like that. And that was last week's episode, was really talking about when you dress for success, meaning like sometimes you just got to do it. If the least you can do on the days that are bad is clean yourself up, put your hair up, do something special, get a new clean outfit on and make your bed, then you're already starting to form a habit of doing good things in a positive way despite what's happening in your life. And I find that when I start my day with my bed made, my leg put on, my clothes doable for the day, whether it's working out, going to the horse, or being out with friends, that I always seem to go on to the next task with a little more gusto and a little more focus. And so that last week, it was really important to kind of talk about that, because I know that I went through a phase of, it was kind of nice to have some downtime at home, and I really just didn't care. And then I realized when I wasn't prepared for the day that I really didn't do anything that day. And it was a bad place to be for a short period of time, and you jump out of it and you move on. This week, I'm dressed more for success, even though this is window dressing. If you're watching, I've been to the gym, I've been on the ranch with the horses, and I'm a filthy, dirty mess, but I did my hair, put on a good cowboy hat and a new shirt, but I'm wearing my old jeans from the bath that I gave my horse today. So I'm half dirty, but you guys think I look like I've gotten myself all cleaned up for this. So like I said, always transparent. I can't go through life lying. So yeah, this is me trying to feel good. As an amputee, I really only get in the shower in the evening. Midday showers are not fun because I don't like having to take my leg off if it's fitting well and doing its job. And so if I have to get in the shower midday, it better be for something really important. But it very rarely happens. It's usually end of day, shower, and then bed. So I'm clean for the night. So anyways, I digress. This week is a kind of a shout out to our ladies chat group, because this last week we meet weekly. Right now, just weekly. Usually we have 2 times a week, but I've taken a little break this summer to be more part of the family and not having too many scheduled things on my list. And the last Wednesday, when I met with the girls, they're all amputees of some level, all lower amputees. And one of the things we discussed, and what I thought was really good, and I'm glad I wrote it down, because 6 days later, and I'm like, wait, what was it that I said? And I wrote it down, and I told them definitely have to do a podcast on this. And that is finding purpose in the waiting. So let me just kind of reel that back for a minute. Purpose in the waiting. A lot of times we need to find patience in the waiting. Thinking of a child who can't wait for Christmas morning, right? I remember many, many times where I really thought I was going to get a puppy as a child, and I couldn't wait for Christmas morning. But we all know that after we sit and wait, that the letdown after everything is there, like your birthday and big special events, it comes, it goes like every other day. And as you get older, it's unfortunate we don't get this insight earlier on in life, but as we get older, we start realizing that if we just wish for those specific days to come, they will be fleeting, and then we're left with weeks, if not months, of disappeared time that we didn't take advantage of in the moment because we were just focused on that future date. And so now that we're older, right, and more mature and understand life better, we can start enjoying and finding some peace in the waiting. But I bring up purpose in the waiting this week as an amputee. If you aren't an amputee and you don't know much about this world except for what you might see on videos, let me take you down a little glimpse here of what the first few years are like. The first few years, and I was told right off the bat that it would be 2 to 3 years. For me, it was like 3.5, 4 years, that you literally get one socket made once you've healed. And the moment you finally start wearing it, even not even used to using the leg, you start to shrink and atrophy, and boom, you find yourself in a ill-fitting socket. And not because your prosthetist didn't do a good job, because you're shrinking. And I always think of my socket, because I am a skin fit amputee. I just go right into my socket. I call it my solid corset. So if I gain weight or lose weight, 5 or more pounds, I notice a difference in the fit. If I gain too much weight, and I don't get my leg in all the way, then it causes other issues down the road, like I start to swell and it starts to harden, which then at the end of my limb starts to piss off some nerve endings, which then create phantom pains, and it's a cycle. And I don't ever go without my leg except when I go to bed at night. So I'm stubborn that way. So if I've gained weight, I will force my leg in. I will wear it all day. I will get up. And there was a time after skiing in the spring that I had about 4 weeks of really poor fitting socket and hardening of my residual limb because of the swelling. And then it became just a plethora of other issues like soreness, tenderness, and pissed off nerves. Okay. So if you lose weight, obviously someone like me with a skin fit, it will fall off. And gosh, we're in like 98 degrees up here in the northern part of Phoenix, and it's supposed to go to 100 next week already. And the sweat, I mean, my socket gets extremely hot, and it's like a cooker oven. Like, I can be outside in the sun doing stuff and it gets hot and heated up, and I'll get into my car or air conditioned place and it's still cooking, it's still warm, it's still hot, and makes my legs sweat. And that's never good for keeping a leg on either. If you have a liner, it stinks as well, and that's where we kind of all start. You put on these things called socks, and so you have a liner that's rolled on your leg, and then you put socks on, 1-ply, 3-ply, or 5-ply, and you build those up to take up the space of the shrinking limb. And that is great at the beginning when you're constantly changing. And like my prosthetist would tell me, you're going to have to add socks. We really won't be able to do much with numbers and your insurance company until you hit about 15-ply to 20-ply. Well, I will tell you right now, if you get to 15 or 20-ply, you don't feel like you're connected to your leg at all. And it is harder to maneuver and more susceptible to injury because you could fall or trip because you're just not feeling your leg like you normally would. Only reason I got into skin fit is after 3.5 years, I finally kind of tapped out on change, like drastic changes, and they were able to put me in one. And I've had like 3 of these made now, and I think I've been in this one now for like a year. So I'm at a good place, but I'm also 5 years out, and it took 3.5, almost 4 years for me to level out on my volume. So the waiting game, and I know the ladies that are listening that have been on our chat, you guys get this because you sit there and first off, if your prosthetist doesn't do what mine did and warn you and tell you patience is important right now because the process is long and it's arduous and you have to deal with it and you have the pros and the cons of it and the ups and downs of it. And those of you that aren't amputees or don't really know much about our community, you might think that getting the amputation is the hard part that we have to deal with, but in reality, it is the ups and downs of daily living, thinking you have a socket that you can wear and a leg to get around on, but while you learn it, you also are shrinking and changing, and then you're not learning it well because it doesn't fit well, and then you have to get another one. And everyone will tell you, every time you get a new socket, there's a good week to 2 weeks of new sores, new soreness, new changes to the way it feels on your body. You have to remember and learn how this socket fits on, because every time we put one on, it fits just a little bit different. And it's not like, I tell people, it's not like a Lego block. I don't just snap it into place. For me, if I'm off by even a centimeter, I can tell based on my peripheral vision, seeing my toe pointed in too much or pointed out too much when I walk. And, you know, most of the time, if it's just that little, I hate it, but I'm like, just leave it, it's fine. But if I really want to feel good, I would take it off and realign it. But for me, it could take a couple tries, especially with skin fit, because it depends on how I pull the bag through. And every time it's a little bit different. So the waiting game is crazy, and it's tough on our mental status, because all we sit there and do is wait for the next thing, wait for the next fit, wait for the next feel good moment, wait for us to get insurance to approve our next socket, wait for the company to get you an appointment to get in for a new socket, to get the measurements, to wait for the test socket, to check the test socket, get another appointment, then send that back and have them fix it and make new adjustments and go back again. And you're talking weeks upon weeks upon weeks of waiting on something or other in the process. And then when you finally get your final socket and it looks beautiful and you can decorate it however you want, you sit there and you spend a couple weeks dealing with the nuances of a brand new socket and the way it fits, and it could cause new sores, and then you've got to work that out. And if you're someone that deals with infection, you actually have to watch that. You can't have an open wound and just keep putting your socket on every day. For me, I'm knock on wood, haven't had any issues with that, and I push through. But that is not for everybody, and quite frankly, and probably a majority of people wouldn't do that. And so yeah, there's a lot of waiting as an amputee. I would say to be on the safe side for the first 3 years of being an amputee. Now, what do you do? This week, I wanted to talk about finding purpose in the waiting. It sometimes becomes, like I said, a mental game for a lot of us, especially those of us that are moms or wives, and we're just wired differently to take care of our family, to deal with the heavy loads at home. And I'm speaking from experience, so if you're not there, you probably can equate this to some other aspect of your life where you have high responsibilities. I am the kind of person that if I elected, which I did, my amputation, and I am now dealing with an ill-fitting socket, I will not complain about it because I chose this path. But I will tell you, it is very hard to keep up with the daily chores when you're not feeling well with your leg, when there's sores or it hurts or it's not fitting right and you don't trust it. And trust is a huge factor. But you sit there and you go, okay, so what is my purpose? Because for me, my life is revolving around my kids and my husband and my dogs. So my job is to keep up the house, deal with the dogs and feeding them and getting them out and potty training, especially our new one, and trying to find purpose in my life when I'm taking care of 2 college kids that are home for the summer and my husband when he comes home from work, and it's been a really hard week. So when we talk about finding purpose, and we have to wait, and there is going to be, and inevitably there are going to be times of waiting, you don't want to just crawl into a hole and wait for that Christmas morning wonderful when your socket is delivered and it fits great and everything's good. Because quite frankly, the moment that that all fits good, you cycle through another waiting game. For me, after 5 years, I was gung-ho this weekend. We were going to have everybody over Monday for Memorial Day, and Sunday, not first thing in the morning, it wasn't until a couple hours after I'd been up, I started getting really bad phantom pains. And when I say really bad, I'm talking gut-wrenching, want to throw up, stabs in the foot that's not even there anymore, that come like a bolt of lightning and leave just as quickly, but they come in intervals of like every 30 seconds, and you can almost feel it starting to tingle, and then it hits you. They bring about tears, they bring about swearing, they bring about audible gasps, clenching of teeth, grabbing of things really tight. I can't even tell you how many times I grabbed the blanket or my shirt. My leg will jolt up, almost kicking me in the face, kneeing me in the face. It out of nowhere. I can't even tell you what started it. My socket's been fitting great. I didn't bang it on anything or piss anything off. I don't have any back issues. Sometimes when I get phantom pains, it's because I hurt my back, and I can tell that my back is dealing with like sciatic pain shooting down my hamstrings. Nothing, no warning, nothing engaging me that way. And that was tough. For me, that was, I couldn't even keep my attention long enough to do anything productive on Sunday. Nothing. I wasn't going to go grocery shopping because I couldn't even barely walk. If I started to walk, I felt like I was stepping on a knife into the bottom of my foot. And it wouldn't be every step. It would only be whenever that started to zing me, and I'd be afraid to put my foot down. So if you've ever walked and thought you were going to step on something sharp and you had to try to skip over, that's kind of how it feels when this hits me on the bottom of my foot. Like I feel like if I put it down, I'm putting my foot on a knife. And so I couldn't grocery shop. I couldn't focus long enough on a TV show or a movie. Wouldn't even attempt to read a book because I would have been thinking too much about the pain and feeling it coming on and waiting for it. Couldn't sit down, couldn't lay down, couldn't stand up and walk. It was a miserable 24 hours. And the worst part is not knowing how long it's going to last. The best part is that this many years in now, I do know it will eventually end. It's just a matter of when. So purpose in the waiting. I struggled on Saturday or Sunday. I really did. I couldn't find a purpose for me on Saturday except to survive. I was in survival mode on Sunday. Really, I was. And that was one of the few moments in a long time that I can remember just praying for the day to end so I could try to go to sleep and hope and pray that I'd wake up in the morning and it would be gone. And so that's a completely different thing too, that you kind of wishing away days is not how I want to live my life. But sometimes that's all you've got when you're in that kind of pain. So I get you. If you're there, I get you. I was just there, and I'm sorry to tell you, if you're a newbie and you're going through phantom pain, I'm 5 years in, and it can just hit me out of nowhere. I will tell you that Monday was fantastic. I woke up, I was great, no more problems, went grocery shopping, baked and cooked all day, went in the pool with my family, enjoyed the day, made a nice dinner, a barbecue, and then last night, it started up again. Monday night, it started up again. Just a whisper of it. So I'm not dealing with it right now, but I had a hard time going to sleep last night. Didn't hit me until I was going to bed. When I took my leg off, it came back a little bit, and all I could do was try to curl in a ball and try to fall asleep. So going into those of you that are going through things right now in your life where you are struggling to find your purpose, because right now you are struggling with a medical issue, you're struggling with your socket not fitting, you're an amputee, Um, you're struggling in the middle of a relationship and you're not sure which way it's going. For number one, you guys know me, my faith is very strong. It's what got me through the decision to amputate and the day of amputation and coming to afterwards. I leaned all of my spiritual soul into my faith and let God make the dictation on how this was going to come out. And I am very, very blessed and very, very lucky that um, I have been able to handle my amputation the way I have, because it could have been any way. It could have ended any way or been any way other than this. And I feel very lucky that, yeah, I still have phantom pains and stuff, but I'm very excited that my amputation's gone as well as it has. So you know that faith is big for me. And if you don't have it or you're not sure of it or whatever, it might be something to lean into and try and figure it out and talk to somebody. But I find my purpose when I know that I'm a child of God. And so I don't talk much about that on this podcast, but there's no denying that our purpose should never be wrapped up in who we are as a human being, what our job title is, or our marital status or our physical status. It should be wrapped up in how God sees us as one perfect being the way we are, flaws and all. We are still perfect in his eyes. And when we find that, we can rest assured just a little bit more that life is going to be okay. But I know some of you that really struggle with the earthly purpose that you serve. And when you cannot do your job the way you want to do it, whether it's a mom, a wife, an employee, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, whatever your situation is, you've got to find something that allows you to live your life with purpose, that brings you to a heightened sense of enjoyment when things are hard. And there is no magical cure for this, but I would say that a lot of people would tell you that when you are looking to find something that means something to you, if you can focus on that during the hard times, then you are more apt to come through on the other side. That's why this is Be a Warrior podcast, because it takes warriors to live the life that we have. And I'm no different than anybody else. I mean, yes, I'm an amputee, but I'm not the only one that has issues. And quite frankly, I don't consider myself having problems. I know a lot of people that have no physical issues, but they are worse off than me. And I don't know if it's they can't find a happiness or a joy in their life, or they're struggling with some internal demons or what, but we make our life what we want to make it. I can tell you that I can have a woe is me attitude about being an amputee and tell people my life sucks, that this had to be my decision. And if I had to do it all over again, I'd want my two legs. And I do know amputees that feel that way, of course, especially if you lost it from an accident. But when you've lived a life where I spent 5 years watching my kids grow while I did nothing but go to surgeries and PT and still not feel better, and then felt like I could have died on an airplane because of a blood clot, I am in a great place, and I am thankful for that. It took 5 years to open my eyes and to broaden my faith and to strengthen my faith in the purpose that my life is to hold. And you know what? It comes down to that. Like, I find that my purpose on this podcast is to speak my truth in hopes that it will help at least one other person. And that is the only thing I do this for. I don't need 1 million followers. I don't need even 1,000 views. But if one of you hears this and says, I get it and I understand it, and that helped me to know somebody else is going through it, or this is how they got through it. So I use my personal journey because I believe that that was the reason why I went through what I did, the way I did, and was able to come out on the other side of it and speak truth about it. and be very transparent. Like this last weekend, it sucked. It totally sucked. And there was one brief second where I thought, oh my God, I could have a million more of these before I die. And that sucks because I was literally walking through the house trying to stifle crying because the pain was so extreme on something that's not even there, that it's a complete mind trick, and it is so hard to overcome the mental aspect of phantom pain. You can tell yourself until you're blue in the face that there's no leg there, but your mind still believes there's something there. So, finding purpose in your waiting. All I can tell you is this. The challenge would be for you this week is to not sit around waiting for the next better day, to make today count. Because quite frankly, I always tell my kids, you know what? If you woke up and you have breath in your lungs, then you have a purpose in this world. You need to figure out what your purpose is. And that means that you have to sometimes dig down really deep, and you need to just become that warrior that I tell you you are every week. You are a warrior. You need to believe it. I know you are. I know every single one of us on this earth was built with a warrior spirit. And when we are called to action in a situation where we go through a circumstance where it's a make or break, that's when you need to dig deep, find your character, and find that warrior that's been buried. Because for most of us, when things are going great, we don't need to be a warrior. We don't need to fight battles. But this moment, in this time, if you're fighting a battle, it's time to uncover your warrior. And that means to dig deep and buck up and find out what you're really made of when things are at its worst. And there is nothing more character building than going through it. And you're listening, that means you know what I'm talking about. Whatever it is you are going through, you have all gone through something big sometime in your life. And if you haven't yet, oh, it's coming. Because we all go through life with some sort of a trial, some sort of a downward slope. It's what makes us enjoy the good moments, right? If I didn't have bad moments, I really couldn't appreciate the good moments. And when I have the bad moments, like this weekend, I'm going to tell you that Monday, when I was feeling great, I couldn't wait to stand and cook and bake all day for my kids. We weren't having a big group of people together, just 5 of us. But I couldn't wait to do it big because I didn't know when the next time was that could happen. And it really took me out. It took me out of the game of life, and I didn't like that. So without the trials and the tribulations, we can't appreciate the good. And when we appreciate the good, we can live fuller, deeper lives. The problem is purpose in the waiting. To sit back and wait and twiddle our thumbs, waiting for things to change for us versus being the change. That's the dress for success from last week. That's talking right now, finding purpose. Even if it's a little thing, even if it is, like for me, it was playing with my puppy in the pool that day. That was the most smiles and encouragement I could. I was encouraging my puppy to enjoy the water, that she was a good girl, that I loved her, and she was safe. I was able to use what little bit left of positive energy in my body and exude it to my puppy, which then in turn, even though I got the shocks in the pool several times, I couldn't let her know that I was dealing with that because she needed me. Maybe that's what you need to do this week. Find your purpose in finding someone that's in need. Maybe your neighbor. Maybe your neighbor's lonely. Maybe your parents. Maybe your friend. Maybe your spouse, your children. Maybe you can reach out to someone that's in need. And when you take yourself out of your life and start living for something else, something greater than your little world right here. We're not 2 or 3 where the world revolves around us. The world keeps going, right? We're going through this and nobody's the wiser. They're still moving on. They're still dealing with their issues. They're still dealing with their deaths in their family. They're still, enjoying their promotion, their marriage, their whatever. Everyone has life happening. The world doesn't revolve around us. So once we pull away from that, we can redirect our thinking and our emotions to something bigger than us, better than us in that moment. And and it's hard. I'm speaking to the choir here on this one. I could not pull myself very well out of Sunday's funk. It was mind numbing, and I couldn't do anything for hours and hours. And that's why I said, just even playing with my puppy in the pool redirected my thinking for a little bit. It didn't take the phantom pain away, but it did bring me some joy. And to watch her succeed and then get all funny, how puppies get when they get out of the water and they're running around crazy. It was just a good thing, and that I needed to redirect my attention, redirect my focus, show that I served more than just myself in that moment, because life was trying to take me out, and I'm not going to let that happen. I know life is short. I know that every hour that I have is an hour that's precious to doing something good for me, for my family, for the people in my neighborhood, for my distant family in Illinois, for the girls that are on our chat. So I need to find that purpose, and that realization comes from the world isn't about me, and I need to figure out where I can throw what energy I have into something different right now while I'm struggling. And if you can do that, then you've actually become that warrior, because it is very hard to pull yourself out of a bad funk where you just can't function. But try it. The challenge this week, or the call to action, try to pull yourself out of where you're at if you're in a negative space by doing something outside of your realm, outside of your home, outside of your neighborhood. Find someone in need and brighten their day. And you might be surprised how that redirection will change the way you feel and think. And it might actually send you on the path of healing, or at least emotionally healing. So try that this week. I don't know if that helps. I know it's hard. Purpose in the waiting. That was a big talk we had last week on our chat. And, I hope we continue it this week. And if you ever have anything that you want to share with me, I would be more than happy to hear it. What you do to find purpose when you are struggling or you're waiting, especially like for us amputees, if you're waiting for that socket or that next fit, or you to stop atrophying or whatever, find something productive to do, something positive to do that will, one, make that time go by fast, but two, not make it a waste of life. There's a lot of people that would give anything to have this life back for someone that they love. So use the life you are given to its fullest, even despite the circumstances. And you'll be a better person for it. You'll have stronger character for it, and you will be a warrior for it. So, you know how I feel. I hope you've had a blessed week. I hope that the rest of your week is amazing. Make it full and make it joyful for yourself and those around you. Smile through the hard steps and rise up, because I know you can. You are all warriors in my book. You're beautiful and you deserve the best. So as always, have a great week and be healthy, be happy, be you.